Before we begin, pause for a second. Imagine walking into a restaurant, dressed in your best, heart full of hope, but the only money in your purse is a wrinkled bill worth barely enough for bus fare. And in front of strangers, the man you trusted turns that into your deepest humiliation. Now let me ask you, what would you do? Walk out, cry, or pray that someone, anyone, would stand up for you? Because that's exactly what happened to Nina. And the way this story ends will leave you breathless. But before we dive in, tell us in the comments, what time is it where you're watching from? And who are you watching with? I want to know. Nina smoothed down the hem of her deep green dress, her palms already damp with nerves. Tonight was supposed to be special. Her blind date. A chance at something new. The chandelier above her threw golden light across polished tables, cutlery glinting like little knives. Around her, couples laughed, glasses clinked, and plates arrived steaming with meals that cost more than her entire week's pay. She shifted uncomfortably in her chair, eyes darting to the two empty wine glasses in front of her. One for her, one for him. But her purse told a different story. Inside, a single $7 note, crumpled, fragile, her lifeline for emergencies only. And tonight felt like the kind of night that could break her. A waiter appeared by her side, voice polite but firm. "Ma'am, may I take a card to hold the table?" "It's policy." Her throat tightened. She forced a shaky smile. "My guest will be here soon. He said he'll handle everything." The waiter hesitated, scanning her dress, her nervous hands, then nodded with forced courtesy. "Of course, ma'am. I'll check back shortly." As he walked away, Nina's heart hammered, because the truth was, she had nothing else. No card, no backup, just that one crumpled bill, and she couldn't stop thinking about what she'd done earlier that day. She had been ironing a suit jacket in her employer's home when her hand brushed something heavy inside the pocket. Curious, she slipped it out. An envelope, thick. She opened it and froze. $100,000 in cash. Her hands shook. For a long second, temptation whispered. That money could change everything. Her mother's medicine, her brother's school fees, food on the table for months. No one would ever know. But Nina knew herself. She closed the envelope, smoothed it flat, and placed it on her employer's desk, quietly, without a word. By evening, her overtime hours were cut. Just like that. And after sending money to her family, all she had left for herself was $7. That's the money burning in her purse tonight. The money that would soon expose her in front of strangers. The front door opened with a jingle of glass. In walked Daniel, gray blazer loose, hair slicked back, grin cocky. He strolled toward her table like he owned the place. Sliding into his chair, he didn't even apologize. "Hope you didn't wait too long," he said casually. "Just a little," she whispered. He picked up the menu, laughing under his breath. "These prices are insane. You picked this place." Her eyes widened. "You suggested it." Right. He waved, signaling the waiter. "Sparkling water. We'll look around." The waiter returned, tone clipped. "Sir, we'll still need a card before service begins." Daniel leaned back, smirking, and said the words that would ruin her night. "Ladies first." The room seemed to still. Nina's body went cold. Slowly, her trembling hand reached into her purse. She pulled out a single wrinkled bill and placed it on the table. "This is all I have." Daniel's laugh exploded. Too loud, too sharp. Diners turned, forks paused midair. $7? That's what you brought to a place like this?" He scoffed, his voice growing louder. "Are you kidding me?" Nina's cheeks burned. "You said you would what? Pay for your little fantasy dinner?" Daniel sneered. "You can't even afford bread here. Look at you. You probably scrub floors for a living." Her stomach dropped. He smirked cruelly. "Oh wait, that's right. You do. A maid. Huh. That explains everything." The word echoed. "Maid." The floor manager approached, arms crossed. "Without a valid card, I'm afraid we'll need the table back." Nina's throat tightened, shame scorching her skin. She clutched her purse and whispered, "Then, I'll leave." She turned, ready to walk out, tears burning her eyes. Nina stood frozen, her chair scraping softly as she rose. The restaurant seemed impossibly bright, every chandelier bulb glaring down like a spotlight on her shame. Diners were whispering now, not kindly. "Did you hear that? She only brought $7. Imagine coming here with nothing. Some people don't belong in places like this." Each word was a dagger. Her knees wobbled. She clutched her purse to her chest like a shield, but it did nothing to hide the heat burning in her cheeks. The manager's voice cut through. "Ma'am, please. We need the table." She nodded quickly, staring at the floor, wishing it would swallow her whole. But Daniel wasn't finished. No, he leaned back in his chair, smirking as he raised his voice even louder, making sure the whole restaurant heard. "You see, people, this is why I don't do blind dates. They show up looking nice, but in the end," he gestured toward Nina with disdain, "all they can bring to the table is $7 and empty dreams." Laughter rippled from a nearby table. Someone coughed to cover it, but it was too late. The sound cut Nina deeper than any blade. Her eyes blurred. She turned, ready to run. And then a sharp sound cracked through the room. Screee. A chair being pushed back, hard, firm, deliberate. The laughter stopped. Conversations died. Everyone turned. At a corner table, a man in a dark suit stood tall. His presence alone seemed to command silence. Broad shoulders, jaw set, eyes like steel. The kind of man who didn't just walk into a room, he owned it. He adjusted his cufflinks slowly, deliberately, as though he had all the time in the world. And then his voice, calm, but deep enough to cut through every corner of the restaurant. "That's enough." The words weren't shouted, but they were felt, like thunder rolling before a storm. Every glass seemed to still on its stem. Forks froze midair. Conversations died in throats. For a single breath, the world paused. Nina's eyes darted upward, wide with disbelief. Her pulse hammered against her ribs. No, not him. Anyone but him. Of all people to witness her humiliation, why did it have to be Adrian Cole? The billionaire, the man she ironed shirts for, dusted shelves for, scrubbed marble floors for. Her employer, her world, already crumbling, tilted on its axis. Her knees trembled so violently she nearly sank back into her chair. The purse in her hands felt like a shield too thin to hide behind. Daniel, the date who turned her night into a spectacle, looked over his shoulder with an arched brow. Then he smirked, leaning lazily into his chair, utterly unbothered. "Well," he drawled, "look who's come to rescue the maid." The words sliced through Nina like a blade. She flinched as though struck, her breath stuttering. But Adrian didn't flinch. His gaze cold, steady, and blinking locked onto Daniel. There was no anger in his expression, only an authority that filled the space like a tide rising over sand. The floor manager, who had been mid-gesture to usher Nina out, froze as well, caught between policy and the power that had just spoken. Silence stretched. Too long, too heavy. A murmur rippled through the diners. A woman whispered behind her hand, "That's Adrian Cole." Another voice hushed, "Isn't he the owner of worth billions?" Someone else breathed. Nina wanted the floor to swallow her whole. Heat scalded her cheeks, the humiliation burning deeper now that strangers knew her name, her station, her shame. Adrian finally moved. Not rushed, not flustered, just deliberate. He slid his chair back, the sound sharp in the hush, and began to walk forward. Each step of his polished shoes struck the marble like a gavel. Daniel chuckled, shaking his head. "This is rich. Tell me, Cole, is this what you do? Go out saving your staff?" He spit the last word with venom. Adrian stopped at the edge of their table. His presence dwarfed the space. The blue of his suit, crisp and commanding, seemed to echo Nina's own dress like some cruel coincidence. "She is not staff tonight," Adrian said, his voice low but carrying. "She is a guest, and you will treat her as such." The air quivered with the words. Nina's lips parted, a trembling protest escaping. Sir, please, you don't. But Adrian didn't look at her yet. His gaze never left Daniel. The server, pale and nervous, hovered with the card machine still in hand. Adrian extended his hand without breaking eye contact. In his palm gleamed a black card. Run it, Adrian instructed. Any amount. And then you will apologize to her. The server hesitated, glancing toward the manager, who swallowed hard and nodded quickly. The black card vanished from Adrian's hand as the waiter scurried away. Daniel scoffed. Apologize? To her? For what? She came here with $5. 5. He barked a laugh, loud and grating. And you're pretending she belongs here? Come on, man. Look at her. He gestured crudely toward Nina, who shrank in her seat. Tears pooled in her eyes, but she blinked them back, fighting to hold herself together. Go ahead, Daniel sneered. Tell the whole restaurant how your maid showed up for a luxury dinner with bus fare. A ripple of discomfort shuddered through the diners. A man coughed awkwardly. A woman shifted in her chair, frowning. The cruelty was naked now, exposed in the bright lights of the room. Adrian's jaw tightened. His voice, when it came, was controlled steel. You want to talk about money? He asked. Then let's. Daniel leaned back, arms crossed, smirk widening. By all means. Adrian's eyes finally slid toward Nina, softening, if only a fraction. She could hardly breathe beneath the weight of his gaze. Yesterday, Adrian said, addressing the room now, she found $3,000 in my jacket pocket. Cash. No witnesses. No record. No way anyone would know if it disappeared. The diners shifted, murmurs swelling. She could have taken it, Adrian continued. God knows she needs it. She could have said nothing and walked away with more than half a year's wages. But she didn't. She placed it on my desk without a word. That's who she is. The room stilled again. The truth hung in the air like a light-piercing fog. Adrian leaned slightly closer to Daniel, his voice lowering sharper. And you tried to reduce her to $5. To mock her in public. To humiliate her for your own amusement. That tells me exactly who you are. Nina covered her mouth, a sob slipping free despite her effort to hold it back. She wasn't supposed to be seen. Not like this. Not vulnerable. Not weeping in front of all these strangers. Daniel's slurk faltered, but only briefly. He forced a laugh, though it rang hollow. She's playing you. That's what this is. A sob story. You don't think she staged this? Adrian's gaze sharpened, cutting him off. Delete the recording. Daniel blinked. What recording? Adrian's chin tilted toward the phone on the table. The red light on its corner blinked like a guilty eye. The room inhaled sharply as one. Daniel cursed under his breath, fumbling for the device. It's nothing, just a joke. Delete it. Adrian's tone brooked no argument. Two security guards, drawn by the tension, appeared near the door, their arms folded, expressions hard. The message was clear. Daniel had no allies left here. With a muttered curse, Daniel tapped furiously at the phone until the red light vanished. He shoved the device into his pocket and shot to his feet, chair screeching loudly. Fine, he spat, his bravado crumbling into rage. She's all yours. Enjoy your charity project. He stormed out, shoving past a waiter, nearly toppling a tray of glasses. The heavy restaurant doors slammed shut behind him. For a long moment, the silence remained. The room seemed to hold its breath. Then slowly, sound trickled back, murmurs, the clink of cutlery, the scrape of chairs. But it wasn't the same noise as before. It was weighted now, charged, every whisper tethered to what had just transpired. Adrian turned at last to Nina. His gaze was no longer cold steel, but steady warmth. Sit, he said gently. Her body trembled. I can't. Everyone's staring. Let them, Adrian said firmly. They're not staring at shame anymore. They're staring at what dignity looks like when it's defended. The words cracked something inside her. Tears spilled freely now. But they weren't only humiliation. They were release, relief, gratitude. The server reappeared, card machine in hand, eyes darting nervously. "Everything is covered, sir." Adrian nodded once. "Good. Then bring her something simple, something she'll enjoy, not for show." Minutes later, a plate was set before Nina. Roast chicken, vegetables, warm bread, nothing extravagant, just comfort. Her hands shook as she picked up her fork. She could barely lift it. "You didn't have to," she whispered, her voice breaking. "Yes," Adrian said, his tone softer now, but unyielding. "I did." "Why?" His eyes held hers, steady and sure. "Because you gave me honesty when no one was watching. Tonight, I gave you dignity when everyone was." Nina's tears fell harder, but she smiled through them. The knot in her chest loosened. The shame that had threatened to consume her cracked open, replaced by something else, something fragile, something like hope dot around them. The diners shifted, no longer watching openly but sneaking glances. Their expressions changed. Respect lingered where mockery had been. For the first time that night, Nina lifted her fork, took a bite, and tasted not just food, but the weight of justice. And in that moment, everything was different. What would you have done if you saw someone humiliated for having only $5? Would you have looked away or stood up? Tell us in the comments below. If this story touched you, hit the like button. Subscribe for more powerful stories of respect, dignity, and justice. And don't forget to share this video because the world needs to be reminded. Human worth is never measured in dollars.